The champagne tasted like liquid humiliation, but I kept drinking it anyway because what else was I supposed to do with my hands, while my husband told a roomful of people he'd rather kiss his dog than me. "Come on, Elaine, don't be dramatic," Derek said, still laughing, his hand on my waist like we were still dancing, like he hadn't just destroyed me in front of 40 people. "You know I'm joking." I knew he wasn't joking. I'd known for 3 years, the entire length of our marriage, that Derek Ashford considered me a business arrangement, not a wife. But knowing something in private and having it announced at his company's anniversary party were two very different things. The music kept playing, some upbeat jazz number that clashed violently with the silence spreading through the ballroom. Derek's business partners stood frozen with their drinks halfway to their mouths. Their wives stared at me with that particular mix of pity and relief that comes from watching someone else's marriage implode instead of your own. I'd leaned in to kiss Derek while we danced. A simple gesture, the kind of thing married couples do. He'd pulled back like I'd tried to bite him. "I'd rather kiss my dog than you," he'd said, loud enough for the nearest tables to hear. Then louder, when he realized he had an audience. "Seriously, Elaine, you don't even meet my standards. Stay away from me." The room had roared with laughter. His college friends, Tyler, Cameron, Andrew, had practically fallen out of their chairs. Even some of the business associates had chuckled politely, not wanting to offend the CEO of Ashford Development Corporation. I stood there in my silver dress, the one Derek's personal shopper had picked out because he said I had no taste, and felt my face burn. Not from embarrassment, from rage, but I smiled. Because that's what I'd learned to do over 3 years of marriage to Derek Ashford. Smile and pretend it didn't hurt. "You're right, darling," I said sweetly, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I should know better by now." Derek's smile faltered slightly. He wasn't used to me agreeing with him in public. Usually I just stayed quiet. I took another sip of champagne, buying myself time to think. My hand was shaking, not from nerves, but from the vitiligo flare-up that had started that morning. White patches spreading across my brown skin like continents on a map. My gloves covered most of it, but I could feel the tightness, the itch, the reminder of why Derek had married me in the same sentence he used to humiliate me. Vitiligo, a rare autoimmune condition that made my skin lose pigmentation in irregular patches. I'd had it since I was 17, and I'd spent 10 years learning to live with it before I met Derek at a medical conference where his company was sponsoring research into autoimmune treatments. He'd been charming, interested in my story, asked thoughtful questions about living with a visible condition. 6 months later, he'd proposed. Not because he loved me, but because marrying someone with the exact condition his company was researching made for excellent PR. I'd known that. On some level, I'd always known that. But I'd been 32, and tired of dating men who couldn't handle my appearance, and Derek had seemed like a solution. He'd never pretended to be in love with me, but he'd been respectful, professional. We'd signed a prenup that protected both our assets. It had seemed like a reasonable arrangement. Until moments like this, when he reminded me, and everyone else, that I was nothing more than a prop in his perfect corporate image. The music finally stopped. The DJ announced a break. People started drifting toward the bar and the buffet tables. Derek's grip on my waist loosened. "Don't make a scene," he murmured in my ear. "We have investors here." "I won't make a scene," I said. Then louder, addressing the lingering crowd, "I have something to say." Derek's hand tightened again, a warning. "Elaine?" "My husband is absolutely right," I continued, my voice carrying across the ballroom. People stopped moving. Conversations died mid-sentence. Even the waiters paused with their trays. "I don't meet his standards. I never have. Derek married me 3 years ago, not because he loved me, but because Ashford Development was launching a research division focused on autoimmune treatments. Having a wife with vitiligo made for excellent branding, made him seem compassionate, progressive, a man who saw beyond physical appearance." Derek's face had gone white. "Elaine, stop." "But here's what Derek didn't tell you," I said, pulling away from him, addressing the room. "He didn't tell you about the clause in our prenup that states if we divorce within 5 years, I get nothing. Not half our assets, nothing. He didn't tell you that his company's stock price jumped 17% after we got married because investors saw him as more trustworthy, more human. He didn't tell you that every public appearance with me, every interview where he talks about supporting his wife through her condition, is calculated PR. The room was dead silent now. 40 people staring at me like I'd grown another head. He also didn't tell you, I continued, that 6 months ago I was diagnosed with a secondary autoimmune condition, lupus, potentially life-threatening. And when I told him, he asked if we could delay announcing it until after the quarterly earnings report. Someone gasped. I didn't see who. So yes, Derek, you're absolutely right. I don't meet your standards, because your standards aren't about love or loyalty or even basic human decency. They're about stock prices and brand image and maintaining control. I set my champagne glass down on the nearest table, carefully, precisely, like I was in complete control of myself, even though my heart was hammering hard enough to crack ribs. I'm leaving now, I said. Not just this party, this marriage. I'll have my lawyer contact yours in the morning. Enjoy the rest of your anniversary celebration. I walked toward the exit. The crowd parted like the Red Sea. No one spoke. No one tried to stop me, except Derek. He caught my arm just as I reached the door. His fingers dug in hard enough to bruise. "You're making a mistake," he hissed. "You'll get nothing. The prenup has a clause about fraud," I said quietly, for his ears only. "About misrepresentation of the terms of the marriage. I have 3 years of documented evidence that you married me solely for business purposes while representing it as a genuine marriage. That constitutes fraud. My lawyer is very good, Derek, and very expensive, paid for by all those business dinners you charged to our joint credit card while you were actually seeing your girlfriend." Derek's grip loosened. "What girlfriend?" "Ashley Keene, your VP of marketing, the one you've been sleeping with since before we got married, the one whose apartment you visit every Tuesday and Thursday, the one you took to Paris last month while telling me you were at a business conference in London." I smiled. "I'm not as stupid as you think I am, Derek. I just let you believe I was." I pulled my arm free and walked out of the ballroom into the cool October night. My car was waiting. I'd texted my driver during Derek's speech about not meeting his standards. I got in, gave him my sister's address, and sat in the back seat while 3 years of marriage shattered like glass around me. My phone started ringing before we left the parking lot. "Derek," I declined the call. He called again. Finally, I turned the phone off. The driver, Marcus, an older black man who'd been with me since before I met Derek, caught my eye in the rearview mirror. "You okay, Mrs. Ashford?" "I will be," I said. "And Marcus, it's just Elaine now." He smiled. "Yes, ma'am. Just Elaine." We drove through the city in silence. I watched the lights blur past and thought about what I'd just done. About the prenup that said I got nothing if we divorced within 5 years. About the evidence I'd been gathering for 18 months. Ever since I'd hired a private investigator to confirm what I already suspected. Derek had been playing me from the start, but I'd been playing him right back. And he had no idea what was coming. My sister Rebecca lived in a brownstone in the historic district, the kind of place Derek would have called charming, while meaning small. She answered the door in pajamas, took one look at my face, and pulled me inside. "What happened?" I told her. "Everything. The party, Derek's comment, my speech, walking out." When I finished, Rebecca was quiet for a long moment. "You really did it," she finally said. "You really left him." "I really did. And the prenup?" "Has a fraud clause. If I can prove Derek entered the marriage under false pretenses, which I can, it's voidable." Rebecca whistled. "How long have you been planning this?" 18 months, since I found out about Ashley. I'd hired a private investigator named Vincent Cross after I'd discovered a receipt in Derek's jacket pocket. Dinner for 2 at an expensive restaurant. On a night Derek claimed he was working late. Vincent had confirmed what I suspected. Derek had been seeing Ashley Keene for 4 years. They'd started dating before he met me, never stopped after we got married. Ashley knew about me, obviously, but she'd been content being the mistress, probably because Derek had promised to divorce me after the 5-year mark when the prenup allowed him to keep everything. What neither of them knew was that I'd been documenting everything, every affair, every lie, every time Derek used marital funds for his relationship with Ashley, every public statement he'd made about our loving marriage, while privately treating me like a business expense. "The fraud argument might work," Rebecca said slowly. She was a corporate lawyer, specialized in contracts. "But it's risky. Prenups are hard to break." "I know. That's why I have a backup plan." "Which is?" "Derek's company went public 2 years ago. As his wife, I'm on the board of directors, non-voting position, purely ceremonial. But it means I have access to internal documents, financial reports, meeting minutes." Rebecca's eyes widened. "Elaine, what did you find?" "Embezzlement. Derek's been siphoning money from the research division, the one that's supposed to be developing autoimmune treatments, into offshore accounts. About $2 million over 18 months. Jesus Christ. He's been using investor money meant for medical research to fund his lifestyle. The Paris trip with Ashley? Paid for with diverted research funds. The new Porsche? Research funds. The apartment he bought her last year? Research funds." Rebecca sat down heavily. "That's securities fraud. If the SEC finds out..." They will find out, because I'm going to tell them. Elaine, if you do that, Derek doesn't just lose money. He goes to prison. I know. We looked at each other. My older sister, who'd protected me through everything, who'd held my hand through hospital visits when the vitiligo first appeared, who'd warned me not to marry Derek but supported me anyway. Are you sure? Rebecca asked quietly. Once you do this, there's no taking it back. I thought about Derek's face when he said I didn't meet his standards, about 3 years of being treated like a business asset instead of a human being, about the lupus diagnosis he'd asked me to hide for quarterly earnings. I'm sure, Rebecca nodded. Okay, then we need to be smart about this. First thing tomorrow, we file for divorce citing fraud. We submit all your evidence, the private investigator's reports, the financial documents, everything. We make it public so Derek can't claim you're making it up. Then we contact the SEC with the embezzlement evidence. He'll fight back. Of course he will, but Elaine, you have documentation, you have proof, and you have something else Derek doesn't have. What's that? Public sympathy. You're a woman with a chronic illness who was exploited by her rich husband. That plays well. Derek's a wealthy CEO who married for PR and embezzled from sick people. That plays very badly. She was right. Derek had built his image on being the compassionate businessman who supported his sick wife. When the truth came out, that image would destroy him. There's one more thing, I said. The lupus. I need to make a decision about treatment soon. The doctor recommended an experimental program, but it's expensive. Derek's insurance covered some of it, but after the divorce, we'll figure it out, Rebecca said firmly. I have savings. Mom and Dad have savings. We'll cover whatever you need. I don't want to be a burden. You're not a burden. You're my sister, and you're about to take down one of the biggest jackasses in the city. I'm actually proud of you. I laughed, surprising myself. Thanks, Becca. That night, I slept in Rebecca's guest room and dreamed about the kiss, about leaning in, full of hope, thinking maybe Derek had finally warmed to me, about his recoil, his words, the laughter. I woke up at 6 a.m., showered, and got dressed in my own clothes, not the designer outfits Derek's shopper had picked, just jeans and a sweater and comfortable boots. Rebecca drove me to her law firm downtown. She introduced me to her senior partner, a woman named Veronica Stern, who specialized in high-profile divorces. Mrs. Ashford, Veronica said, shaking my hand. Her grip was firm, professional. Rebecca briefed me on your situation. I've reviewed the prenup and your documentation. I think we have a very strong case. How strong? Strong enough that I'd take it on contingency if I had to. But I'm not. You're paying my full rate because you're going to win, and you're going to win big. Veronica smiled. Derek Ashford made a critical mistake. He put his affair and his embezzlement in writing. Emails, texts, financial transfers. He thought he was untouchable. He was wrong. We spent 4 hours preparing. Veronica had me sign papers, give detailed statements, authorize the release of Vincent's investigation files. By noon, the divorce petition was filed with the court. By 1 p.m., a process server had delivered the papers to Derek's office. By 2 p.m., my phone started ringing. Derek, his lawyer, his mother, Tyler, and Cameron. Even Ashley, weirdly. I ignored them all. At 3 p.m., Veronica called. Derek's lawyer called. He wants to meet. Discuss terms. Already? He's scared. The fraud allegation is serious. If we can prove it, the prenup is void and you're entitled to half of everything. That's about $40 million. $40 million. The number made me dizzy. What do you want to do? Veronica asked. I want to meet, but not to negotiate, to watch him panic. Veronica laughed. I like the way you think. I'll set it up for tomorrow morning. Derek, his lawyer, you, and me, neutral location. We'll present our evidence and see how he reacts. That night, the story broke. Someone at the party, probably one of Derek's business rivals, had leaked my speech to a gossip blog. By midnight, it was everywhere. Society wife exposes husband's cruel PR marriage. Derek Ashford's wife claims marriage was business arrangement. Vitiligo activist leaves husband after public humiliation. My phone exploded with calls and texts. Reporters, friends I hadn't talked to in years, advocacy groups for vitiligo and autoimmune diseases. Everyone wanted my story. Rebecca fielded them all. No comment until after the divorce is finalized. But the damage to Derek's image was already done. His company's stock dropped 6% in after-hours trading. Several advocacy groups issued statements condemning his behavior. 3 board members called for his resignation. And we hadn't even released the embezzlement evidence yet. The meeting was set for 10 a.m. at a conference room in a downtown hotel. Neutral ground. Veronica and I arrived 15 minutes early. Derek and his lawyer, a man named Preston Hart who charged $1,000 an hour, arrived exactly on time. Derek looked terrible. Rumpled suit, dark circles under his eyes, hair uncombed. Nothing like the polished CEO who'd humiliated me 2 days ago. "Elaine," he said, trying to smile, "can we talk privately?" "No," Veronica said before I could answer. "Anything you have to say can be said in front of counsel." We sat. Veronica on my left, Derek and Preston across the table. The conference room was sterile and cold, all glass and chrome and uncomfortable chairs. Preston cleared his throat. "My client is willing to discuss a settlement. Given the unfortunate circumstances of recent events, Mr. Ashford believes it's in everyone's best interest to resolve this matter quickly and discreetly." "I'm sure he does," Veronica said, "but my client has some concerns about the validity of the prenuptial agreement." "The prenup is ironclad," Preston said. 5 years, no-fault divorce, separate assets. My client fulfilled every obligation. "Except honesty," Veronica interrupted. She slid a folder across the table. "This is a summary of evidence collected by my client over the past 18 months. It includes documentation of Mr. Ashford's affair with Ashley Keene, which began before his marriage and continued throughout. It includes financial records showing marital funds were used to support this affair. And it includes multiple public statements by Mr. Ashford claiming his marriage was genuine and loving, which constitute fraud." Preston opened the folder. His face went pale as he flipped through pages. "This is inadmissible," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Obtained through illegal surveillance." "Private investigators are perfectly legal," Veronica said. "Everything here was obtained through lawful means. Bank statements, public records, testimony from witnesses. It's all admissible." Derek leaned forward. "Elaine, please. We can work this out. I'll give you a fair settlement. More than the prenup says. Just don't make this public." "Too late," I said. It was the first time I'd spoken since entering the room. "It's already public. The story's everywhere." "The affair story? Yes. But there's more, isn't there?" Derek's eyes were desperate. "The embezzlement. That's what you're really holding over me." Preston's head snapped toward Derek. "What embezzlement?" Veronica slid another folder across the table, thicker this time. Ashford Development's research division received $42 million in investment funding over the past 2 years. According to internal documents, only $38 million was actually spent on research. The missing $4 million was diverted to offshore accounts controlled by Mr. Ashford. Preston looked like he might be sick. "Derek, tell me this isn't true." Derek said nothing. "It gets worse," Veronica continued. "Mr. Ashford used diverted research funds, money specifically invested to develop treatments for autoimmune conditions, to fund personal expenses, including an apartment for his mistress, luxury vacations, and a vehicle. This constitutes securities fraud, breach of fiduciary duty, and misappropriation of investor funds." "We have copies of everything," I said, finding my voice. "Financial records, emails discussing the transfers, meeting minutes where Derek specifically authorized the diversions. We've already sent everything to the SEC. They're opening an investigation." The conference room went very quiet. Preston closed both folders carefully. "We need to adjourn this meeting. I need to consult with my client privately." "Of course," Veronica said pleasantly. "We'll be in touch about the settlement." We stood to leave. Derek stood too. "Elaine, wait, please." I stopped but didn't turn around. "I never meant to hurt you," Derek said. His voice was breaking. "The marriage was supposed to be mutually beneficial. You got financial security. I got good PR," I finished, turning to face him. "You got to play the compassionate husband while treating me like a prop, while sleeping with Ashley, while stealing money that was supposed to help people like me, people with conditions that could kill them." I paused. "I have lupus, Derek. Real, potentially fatal lupus. And when I told you, you asked me to hide it for quarterly earnings. That's when I knew I had to leave." "I'm sorry," Derek said. "God, Elaine, I'm so sorry." "No, you're not. You're sorry you got caught." I looked at Preston. "We're prepared to go to trial if necessary. But if Derek wants to settle, here are our terms. Full division of all marital assets, 50-50. Derek pays all legal fees. He signs a statement admitting the marriage was fraudulent, and he cooperates fully with the SEC investigation." "Those terms are ridiculous," Preston started. "Those terms keep Derek out of prison," Veronica said. "If he doesn't settle, and this goes to trial, every detail becomes public record. The affair, the embezzlement, all of it. He'll be convicted of securities fraud and serve actual prison time. This way, he might avoid criminal charges if he pays back the diverted funds and cooperates. Preston looked at Derek. Derek looked at the table. "We'll need time to consider," Preston said finally. "You have 48 hours," Veronica said. "After that, we proceed to trial and release everything to the media." We left them sitting in that conference room. In the elevator going down, Rebecca, who'd been waiting in the lobby, joined us. "How'd it go?" she asked. "He's going to settle," Veronica said confidently. "He has no choice." "What if he doesn't?" I asked. "Then we destroy him in court. But trust me, Elaine, Derek Ashford is not going to prison. He'll pay whatever it takes to avoid that." She was right. 36 hours later, Preston called with a settlement offer. Derek would pay me $35 million, slightly less than half because he argued some assets were premarital. He'd pay all legal fees, approximately $2 million. He'd sign a statement acknowledging the marriage was based on business considerations rather than genuine affection, and he'd cooperate with the SEC, returning the $4 million in diverted funds plus penalties. In exchange, I'd agree not to pursue criminal charges separately and would sign an NDA preventing me from discussing the embezzlement publicly beyond what was already released. "It's a good deal," Veronica said when she called to explain. "You get the money, he avoids prison, everyone moves on." "What about Ashley?" "She's separate. Derek's ending the relationship. Apparently the scandal made her toxic to his image." I almost felt sorry for Ashley. Almost. Then I remembered she'd been sleeping with my husband for 4 years while knowing he was married. "I'll take the deal," I said, "but I want one more thing." "What?" "Derek has to issue a public apology. A real one. Admitting he married me for business reasons, admitting he cheated, admitting he treated me badly. I want him to own it." Veronica was quiet for a moment. "He won't like that." "I don't care. That's my final condition." She called back an hour later. He agreed. He's drafting the statement now. The apology was released 3 days later. Derek posted it on his company's website and his personal social media. It was carefully worded, obviously written by lawyers, but it covered everything. "I married Elaine Hartley 3 years ago. At the time, I believed our arrangement would be mutually beneficial. She would have financial security, and I would benefit professionally from being married to someone who represented the demographic my company serves. This was wrong. Marriage should be based on love and genuine partnership, not business strategy. I failed Elaine as a husband. I was unfaithful. I prioritized my career over her well-being. I treated her condition as a prop rather than understanding the reality of her daily struggles. For all of this, I am deeply sorry. Elaine deserves far better than how I treated her. I hope she can find happiness and health going forward." The statement went viral. Some people praised Derek for owning his mistakes. Others said it was too little, too late. The board of Ashford Development forced him to step down as CEO, though he remained a major shareholder. His reputation was permanently damaged. And I got my settlement. $35 million. More money than I'd ever imagined having. 3 months after the divorce was finalized, I was sitting in Rebecca's living room going through medical bills when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Elaine?" Ashley Keene. I recognized her voice from the party. "What do you want?" I asked. "I want to apologize. I know it's too late and probably meaningless. But I need to say it. I'm sorry. For the affair. For contributing to your pain. For everything." "Okay," I said flatly. "I didn't know," Ashley continued. "About the embezzlement or how Derek really treated you. He told me your marriage was fake, that you knew about me, that it was all arranged. I believed him because I wanted to. That's not my problem, Ashley. I know. I just wanted you to know that Derek used both of us. He told me he loved me, that he'd leave you after 5 years and we'd be together. Then the scandal hit, and he dropped me like I was toxic. Lost my job, lost my apartment, lost everything. And I deserved it. But I wanted you to know he didn't just hurt you. He hurt everyone around him." I was quiet for a moment. "Why are you calling me?" "Because you were stronger than me. You fought back. You made him pay. I just let him use me for 4 years and then cried when it ended." Ashley's voice cracked. "I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry." "Apology noted," I said, then softer. "What are you going to do now?" "I don't know. Look for a new job. Try to rebuild my reputation. Maybe move to a different city." "There are advocacy groups," I said, "for people who've been manipulated by narcissists. Might help." "Maybe, thank you." She paused. "You're being kinder than I deserve." "I'm not being kind. I'm being factual. Derek manipulated both of us. The difference is I figured it out sooner." I hesitated. Good luck, Ashley. You too. I hung up and sat there thinking about the conversation, about how Derek had used both of us, Ashley for companionship and physical affection, me for public image and business purposes, about how we'd both believed his lies until we couldn't anymore. The next day, I did something I'd been putting off. I called the experimental lupus treatment program. The doctor, a woman named Helen Park, answered cheerfully. Ms. Hartley, I was hoping you'd call. Have you decided about the program? I want to do it, I said. How soon can we start? Next month. We'll need to run some tests first. Make sure you're a good candidate. But based on your initial screening, I'm optimistic. The treatment was expensive. Even with the settlement money, it would take a significant chunk. But it was the best option for managing the lupus long term. Let's do it, I said. I threw myself into treatment and recovery. The program was intense, medication, lifestyle changes, regular monitoring, but within 3 months my symptoms improved dramatically. The fatigue lessened, the joint pain decreased, the inflammation markers dropped. You're responding beautifully, Dr. Park said during a checkup. Better than I expected, honestly. So I'm going to be okay? With continued treatment and monitoring, yes, the lupus will always be there, but we can manage it. You can live a normal life. I cried in the parking lot after that appointment, not from sadness or relief, from the realization that I was finally free. Free from Derek. Free from the constant fear that my body was betraying me. Free to build whatever life I wanted. 6 months after the divorce, I got a call from Veronica. The SEC closed their investigation. And? Derek paid back the $4 million plus $3 million in fines. No criminal charges filed. He's banned from serving as CEO of any publicly traded company for 10 years, but he avoided prison. He got off easy. He got off lucky, Veronica corrected. Most people who embezzle millions go to prison. Derek had expensive lawyers and the willingness to cooperate. He'll survive. What about Ashford Development? Stocks recovered somewhat under new leadership. They've restructured the research division and brought in independent oversight. Company's in decent shape, all things considered. Good. I don't want the employees to suffer because Derek's a criminal. After we hung up, I thought about Derek, about where he was now, what he was doing. I'd seen a few articles mentioning him. He'd been spotted at various social events, always alone, looking older and more worn down. Part of me wanted to feel victorious, to revel in his downfall. But mostly I just felt tired. Derek had taught me what I didn't want. Taught me that money and status meant nothing without respect and genuine care. Taught me that I'd rather be alone than be with someone who saw me as a prop. I used some of the settlement money to start a foundation, the Elaine Hartley Foundation for Autoimmune Research. We funded actual research, not embezzled it. We provided grants to patients who couldn't afford treatment. We advocated for better insurance coverage and more public awareness. The foundation gave me purpose. Gave me a reason to get up in the morning that had nothing to do with Derek or the divorce or any of it. I bought a house, nothing massive, just a comfortable 3-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood. Decorated it myself. Filled it with things I actually liked instead of what some designer thought I should like. Rebecca visited often. We had dinners and game nights and long conversations about everything and nothing. She was dating someone new, a woman named Sophie who made her laugh. They were good together in a way Derek and I had never been. 1 year after the divorce, I was at a coffee shop reading a book when someone sat down across from me. Derek. He looked different, older, grayer, tired in a way that went beyond physical exhaustion. I'm not here to cause trouble, he said quickly. I just saw you and wanted to say hello. Hello, I said warily. You look good, healthy. The lupus treatment worked. I'm glad. He seemed to mean it. I read about your foundation. It's doing good work. Better than your research division was doing under your leadership. Derek flinched but nodded. I deserved that. I deserve a lot worse than that, honestly. We sat in awkward silence. Finally, Derek said, I've been in therapy, real therapy, not just the court-mandated stuff, trying to figure out why I am the way I am, why I treated you the way I did. And I'm a narcissist with deep-seated insecurity issues who sought validation through control and manipulation. He said it flatly, like reading from a diagnosis. I measured my worth by professional success and external validation. I never learned how to have genuine relationships. I objectified everyone around me, including you. That's a very clinical way of saying you're an asshole. Derek almost smiled. Yeah, I'm an asshole, and I'm sorry. I know I've said that before, but this time I mean it. Not sorry I got caught. Sorry for what I did. For using you. For humiliating you. for treating your illness like a business opportunity. I studied his face, looking for signs of manipulation, but all I saw was exhaustion and genuine regret. "Okay," I said finally. "Okay? Okay. I believe you're sorry. Doesn't change anything. Doesn't undo what happened. But I believe you." Derek nodded slowly. "That's more than I deserve. Thank you." He stood to leave, paused. The kiss, at the party, when you leaned in and I pulled away. I think about that moment a lot. Why? Because that was the moment you decided to leave. I could see it in your eyes. Not when I said the cruel thing or when everyone laughed. But right then, when I pulled away from you, that's when you made the decision to destroy me. I didn't destroy you. I just stopped protecting you. Same thing, in the end. Derek gave a sad smile. "Take care of yourself, Elaine." "You too." He walked away. I went back to my book, and I didn't think about him again. 2 years after the divorce, I met someone, a doctor named Michael who worked in the autoimmune research field. We met at a conference, ironically one my foundation was sponsoring. He was kind, funny, genuinely interested in my work and my life. He asked about the vitiligo not as a medical curiosity, but as part of who I was. He thought the patches were beautiful. "Like a map," he said, tracing one on my arm during our third date. "Every mark tells a story about your body fighting to survive." We dated for 6 months before I told him about Derek, about the marriage and the humiliation and the divorce. "He sounds like an idiot," Michael said when I finished. He is. His loss, my gain. Michael kissed me, gentle and sweet. "Thank you for telling me, but Elaine, that's your past. I'm interested in your future." My future probably involves more medical appointments and treatment adjustments and flare-ups that make me look and feel terrible. Then I'll drive you to the appointments, sit with you during treatments, and remind you you're beautiful during flare-ups. He smiled. "I'm a doctor. I'm not scared of chronic illness. I'm scared of wasting time with the wrong people when I could be with the right one." We got engaged a year later. Small ceremony, just family and close friends. No business associates, no PR strategy, no ulterior motives. Just two people who loved each other deciding to build a life together. The foundation continued to grow. We funded 12 research projects in 3 years. Helped 800 patients access treatment. Became one of the leading voices in autoimmune advocacy. I gave talks at medical conferences. Shared my story, about Derek, about the fake marriage, about fighting back, about learning to value myself, about understanding that chronic illness didn't make me less worthy of love and respect. After one such talk at a university, a young woman approached me. She had vitiligo too, patches across her face and hands. She was maybe 22, nervous, clutching a notebook. "Ms. Hartley, I just wanted to say thank you. Your story helped me leave my boyfriend. He kept saying my vitiligo was embarrassing, that I should cover it up, that I was lucky he was willing to date me at all." She blinked back tears. "Hearing how you stood up to your ex-husband made me realize I deserved better." "You do deserve better," I said, hugging her. "So much better." "Did you ever regret it? Leaving him? Starting over?" I thought about that question, about the night I walked out of that party, not knowing what came next, about the fear and uncertainty and risk. "Not once," I said, "not for a single second." 3 years after the divorce, I was cleaning out storage boxes in my basement when I found something I'd forgotten about, the silver dress from the party, the one I'd been wearing when Derek humiliated me. I pulled it out, held it up to the light. It was beautiful, objectively, expensive fabric, perfect tailoring, but looking at it made me remember that night, the laughter, the shame, the moment everything changed. I should have thrown it away, should have donated it or burned it or done something dramatic. Instead, I hung it in my closet next to the dress I'd worn when Michael proposed, a reminder of where I'd been and how far I'd come, a reminder that sometimes the worst moments lead to the best transformations. Michael found me standing there, looking at both dresses. "That the famous dress?" he asked. "The infamous dress." "Why are you keeping it?" "Because it represents the night I took my life back, the night I stopped being Derek Ashford's wife and started being myself again." I closed the closet. "Every war trophy deserves display, right?" Michael laughed. "You're not like anyone I've ever met." "Good. Anyone like me would be exhausting." We went upstairs, made dinner together, talked about our days. Michael told me about a promising new treatment protocol his team was developing. I told him about a grant application from a researcher in Boston. Normal conversation, normal life. the kind of boring, comfortable domesticity that felt like luxury after years with Derek. That night, my phone buzzed. An article notification. Derek Ashford spotted with new girlfriend at charity gala. I clicked it out of curiosity. There was Derek in a tuxedo, arm around a blonde woman who looked like she'd stepped out of a magazine. The caption identified her as a socialite from old money. So Derek had found someone new, someone who fit his image better than I ever had. Good for him. Michael saw me looking at the article. You okay? I'm fine. Just weird seeing him move on. Are you jealous? God, no. I meant it. I'm relieved. Maybe he'll leave me alone now. Derek hadn't contacted me since that coffee shop encounter 2 years ago. No calls, no texts, no surprise visits. He'd moved on with his life and let me move on with mine. That was the best gift he could have given me. Freedom. 4 years after the divorce, the foundation hosted its annual fundraising gala. 500 guests, major donors and researchers and patients. I wore a burgundy dress, my choice, my style, and spent the evening talking to people who genuinely cared about the work we were doing. During dinner, the board chair gave a speech about the foundation's impact. Mentioned my name, everyone applauded. I stood and waved, feeling genuinely proud of what we'd built. After dinner, a man approached me. Older gentleman, maybe 70, distinguished looking. Ms. Hartley, I'm Jonathan Ashford, Derek's father. I stiffened. Mr. Ashford, please call me Jonathan. I wanted to apologize for my son's behavior during your marriage. My wife and I had no idea what was happening. Derek always presented everything as perfect. You don't need to apologize for him. Perhaps not. But as his father, I feel responsible. I raised him to value success over character, to prioritize appearances over substance. That's on me. Jonathan looked tired. When the truth came out about the marriage and the embezzlement, it forced me to confront what my son had become, what I'd helped him become. What did you do? Cut him off financially, made him stand on his own. He's rebuilding now, but without family money propping him up. He needs to learn accountability. That must have been difficult. He's your son. He is, and I love him. But love doesn't mean enabling destructive behavior. Jonathan paused. I also wanted to thank you for the foundation. My wife has rheumatoid arthritis. One of your grants helped fund the research that led to her current treatment. She's in remission now because of work your foundation supported. I'm glad we could help. You've turned something painful into something meaningful. That takes strength most people don't have. Jonathan squeezed my hand. Thank you, Miss Hartley, for being stronger than my son deserved. After he left, I stood there thinking about Derek, about how even his father recognized what he'd done was wrong, about how different my life was now compared to 4 years ago. Michael found me on the balcony, looking out at the city lights. Hey, you disappeared. Just needed air. Derek's father was here. Yeah? How'd that go? Better than expected. He apologized. Thanked me for the foundation. Michael wrapped his arms around me from behind. You know what I love about you? What? You took the worst thing that ever happened to you and used it to help other people. Most people would have just taken the money and disappeared. You built something that matters. The foundation wasn't revenge. I know. That's what makes it powerful. You didn't do it to hurt Derek or prove something. You did it because you actually care. He was right. The foundation had started as a way to process my anger and hurt, but it had become something more, something that mattered beyond my personal history with Derek. That was the real victory. Not the settlement money or the public apology or Derek's damaged reputation. The real victory was building a life that had nothing to do with him. A life where I helped people, loved deeply, and woke up every morning grateful to be alive. 5 years after the divorce, the magical 5-year mark when the original prenup would have expired, I was at the foundation office when my assistant buzzed me. Miss Hartley, there's a delivery for you. The courier says it's urgent. Send them in. The courier handed me a small package. I signed for it, confused, opened it at my desk. Now, inside was a jewelry box. Inside the jewelry box was a necklace, a simple silver chain with a small pendant shaped like a butterfly, and a note in Derek's handwriting. 5 years ago today, you married me. 5 years ago today, I made the worst decision of my life. Not marrying you, but treating you the way I did. This butterfly is for transformation. You transformed your pain into purpose. You transformed your illness into advocacy. You transformed everything I tried to destroy into something beautiful. I'll spend the rest of my life regretting what I lost, but I'm grateful you found what you deserved. Congratulations on 5 years of freedom. I held the necklace, feeling complicated emotions I didn't want to examine. Derek had remembered the anniversary, had sent something thoughtful, had acknowledged again what he'd done wrong. But it didn't change anything. Couldn't change anything. 5 years of freedom was exactly right. I was free. Free from Derek, from that marriage, from being anyone's PR strategy. I put the necklace back in the box and filed it away in my desk drawer. Maybe someday I'd be able to wear it without remembering everything that came before. But not today. Michael and I got married 6 months later. Small ceremony in Rebecca's backyard, the same place she'd helped me plan my escape from Derek. 50 guests who actually knew us, actually cared about us. During our vows, Michael said, "I promise to see you as a person, not a condition, to support your work, not use it, to love you completely, not conditionally." I cried. Rebecca cried. Even some of the tougher research colleagues got misty-eyed. After the ceremony, during the reception, Rebecca pulled me aside. 5 years ago, you called me from a hotel room crying. Said you'd ruined your life by walking out on Derek, remember? I remember. You were wrong. You didn't ruin your life. You saved it. She hugged me tight. I'm so proud of you, Elle. So damn proud. I couldn't have done it without you. Yes, you could have, but I'm glad you didn't have to. That night, dancing with Michael under string lights in Rebecca's backyard, I thought about the other wedding, the elaborate ceremony Derek had planned, the 500 guests who barely knew us, the photographer who'd captured our perfect image for his company newsletter. This was better. This was real. 7 years after the divorce, I ran into Derek one final time. I was grocery shopping, loading organic vegetables into my cart, when I heard a familiar voice behind me. Elaine. I turned. Derek stood there with a shopping cart of his own. He looked different again, softer somehow, less polished, more human. Derek. How are you? I'm good, really good. You? Getting there. Therapy helps. So does accountability. He paused. I got married 6 months ago. Her name is Claire. She's a teacher. Nothing to do with my business or my image. Just someone I actually care about. I'm happy for you, I said. And surprisingly, I meant it. Thank you for the butterfly necklace, Derek said. I didn't know if you'd keep it or throw it away. I kept it, filed it away. Haven't worn it yet, but maybe someday. That's more than I expected. Derek looked down at his cart, full of vegetables and whole grains and healthy food. I'm different now, or trying to be. Claire doesn't tolerate the stuff I used to do. Keeps me honest. Good for Claire. Yeah, good for Claire. He smiled sadly. I think about that party sometimes. About the kiss, about what I said. If I could take back one moment in my life, it would be that one. You can't take it back. I know, but I wanted you to know that I understand now. What I did to you, what I took from you. I understand, and I'm sorry. Not sorry I got caught. Sorry I did it at all. We stood there in the produce aisle, two people who used to be married, who used to share a life, who now shared only history. I forgive you, I said finally. The words surprised me, but they felt right. Not because you deserve it, but because I don't want to carry anger anymore. I'm too busy being happy. Derek's eyes filled with tears. Thank you. God, Elaine. Thank you. Take care of yourself, Derek. Treat Claire better than you treated me. Every single day, he promised. We parted ways in that grocery store. I finished my shopping, went home to Michael, and didn't think about Derek again for weeks. When I did think about him, it was with distant compassion, like remembering someone I used to know who'd been going through something difficult. The anger was gone. The hurt was gone. Only understanding remained. Derek had been broken when I met him. Broken in ways I couldn't fix, didn't cause, and wasn't responsible for healing. He'd used me because he didn't know how to be genuine. He'd hurt me because he was hurting. That didn't excuse what he'd done, but it explained it. An explanation, if not forgiveness, brought peace. 10 years after the divorce, the foundation celebrated its 10th anniversary with a major event. We'd helped over 5,000 patients access treatment, funded 43 research projects, changed insurance policies in 3 states, made real, measurable differences in people's lives. During my speech at the anniversary gala, I told the story. The whole story. About Derek, about the marriage, about the party where he'd humiliated me. That moment, I said to the crowd of 800 people, that kiss he rejected, that cruel comment he made, that was the moment I decided to take control of my own story. Not just leave him, though I did that, but to transform the pain into something meaningful, to use my experience to help others. I paused, looking out at the audience. Saw patients I'd helped, researchers we'd funded, advocates who joined our cause. Derek Ashford taught me what I wouldn't accept. He taught me that I deserved respect, genuine care, and partnership. He taught me that being useful isn't the same as being valued. And he taught me that sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's building something so meaningful that the person who hurt you becomes irrelevant to your success. The audience erupted in applause. Standing ovation. Michael stood in the front row, beaming with pride. After the event, a journalist approached me for an interview. "Ms. Hartley, that was powerful. Do you still have contact with your ex-husband?" "No. We've both moved on with our lives." "Do you regret marrying him?" I thought about that question. About 3 years of being treated like a business asset. About the lupus diagnosis and Derek's request to hide it. About that kiss, that moment, that decision to leave. "No," I said finally. "I don't regret it. If I hadn't married Derek, I wouldn't have learned what I was capable of. I wouldn't have built this foundation. I wouldn't have found the strength to fight for myself. Sometimes the worst experiences teach us the most important lessons." What would you say to Derek if he were here? I'd say thank you. Thank you for being exactly who you were. Thank you for showing me what I wouldn't tolerate. Thank you for pushing me to become someone stronger than I knew I could be. The interview ran in 3 major publications. Derek's name wasn't mentioned. By mutual agreement, we'd moved past using each other for publicity. But people who knew the story understood. I heard through mutual acquaintances that Derek read the interview, that he'd cried, that he'd shown it to Claire and said, "That's the woman I destroyed. Look at what she became anyway." But I didn't hear it from Derek. He kept his distance, respected my boundaries, lived his own life separate from mine. That was the final gift he gave me, space. 15 years after the divorce, I was 62 years old. The foundation was thriving under new leadership. I'd stepped back to an advisory role. Michael and I had traveled the world. We'd grown old together in the way I'd always imagined growing old should be, gradually, comfortably, with love. My vitiligo had progressed over the years. Now almost half my skin was depigmented, a patchwork of brown and white that told the story of my body's long battle with itself. The lupus was managed, controlled. I looked different than I had at 32 when I met Derek. Older, obviously, but also more comfortable, more myself. One afternoon, cleaning out old files from the foundation, I found the silver dress, the one from the party. I'd forgotten I'd stored it there, donated to a charity auction years ago, but somehow never actually sent. I held it up. It was still beautiful, still expensive, still perfectly tailored, and it meant nothing. Just fabric, just thread, just a memory of someone I used to be. I put it in the donation box for real this time. Someone else could wear it to their own important moment, could make their own memories in it. The dress was gone. Derek was gone. Not dead, just absent from my life. The marriage was ancient history. The pain had faded to background noise. What remained was everything I'd built. The foundation, the relationships, the advocacy work, the life with Michael, the comfort in my own skin, patches and all. I'd told Derek years ago that he didn't destroy me, that I just stopped protecting him. That had been true then. It was still true now. The real story wasn't about Derek humiliating me at a party. The real story was about what I did next, how I transformed public humiliation into private strength, how I used his cruelty as fuel to build something meaningful. The real story was that I won, not by destroying Derek, though I'd certainly damaged his reputation and his wallet, but by becoming someone who didn't need revenge because I was too busy living well. That night, Michael and I sat on our porch watching the sunset. He held my hand, tracing the patterns on my skin like he'd done for 15 years. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. "That party, 15 years ago, when Derek said he'd rather kiss his dog than me." Michael was quiet for a moment. "Do you still think about that?" "Sometimes, but not with pain anymore, with gratitude." Gratitude. That he showed me who he really was, that he pushed me to leave, that he gave me the motivation to become who I am now. I squeezed Michael's hand. If Derek had been kinder, I might have stayed, might have wasted decades in that marriage, might never have built the foundation or met you or any of it. "So you're grateful to the man who humiliated you in front of 40 people? "I'm grateful for the lesson. The man himself is irrelevant." We sat in comfortable silence, watching the sun sink below the horizon. 15 years since that party. 15 years of freedom, growth, transformation. Somewhere in the city, Derek was probably sitting on his own porch with Claire, probably watching the same sunset, probably thinking about his own regrets and lessons. I hoped he'd found peace. I hoped Claire made him happy. I hoped he'd learned to be the kind of man he should have been from the start. But mostly, I just hoped he'd left me out of his thoughts the way I'd left him out of mine. Because that kiss, the one he rejected, the one that started everything, had become the moment my real life began. The moment I stopped being Derek Ashford's wife and started being Elaine Hartley. And Elaine Hartley had built something extraordinary. Not despite what Derek did to her, but because of it. That was the final revenge. Not hurting him, but succeeding so completely that he became irrelevant to my happiness. The music at that party had stopped. The laughter had died. Derek's empire had crumbled. But I was still here, still standing, still thriving. And that was all the victory I needed.